Alrighty, so this poster presentation, it'll be brief. If you've gone to any of the other poster presentations, you don't have a lot of time. So I'm going to summarize the best I can. Public loan forgiveness, public service loan forgiveness. This is more of an informational poster rather than a research poster, but I thought it was really relevant to an extension conference because just about everyone, if extension, if you have student loan debt, you could qualify for public service loan forgiveness. We'll start with a little bit about who it's for, and also some very recent changes. In fact, there have been some changes to the program since I sent this poster to NEAFCS. So I will go into that. It's not on the poster itself, but I'll go into a little bit of that toward the end of our 10 minutes together. So if you work for any type of government organization, most nonprofit organizations, you could, and I'm going to be using some hedging words, you could qualify for public service loan forgiveness. So I'm going to kind of summarize how do you qualify, how do you make sure you qualify, who it's for, some things to watch out for, and also some new aspects to the program. So you need to qualify for public service loan forgiveness. And there's really 4 types of qualification. One is the type of work. So you have to have qualifying work to qualify for public service loan forgiveness. And you'll see these on the left-hand part of the poster that you see on your screen. So qualifying work means a couple things. It means full-time employment, which is defined as 30 hours or more per week, or work that your employer considers full-time. So that leaves a little bit of a gray area there, and there needs to be some documentation of that. But basically, 30 hours or more per week is considered full-time employment. So if you are working for multiple employers and your total amount of hours accumulate to 40 hours or more, 30 hours or more per week, that qualifies you as well. There are some exemptions for religious work. So time spent on religious teaching or worship doesn't qualify for but you can still work for a faith-based organization and qualify, but that type of work does not fall under this program. So you need to work for a qualified employer. A qualified employer is any type of government organization or a nonprofit recognized under the tax code section 51C3. You need to make a minimum number of qualifying payments. You need to make a total of 120 qualifying payments. If you've read anything about public service loan forgiveness in the news over the last couple of years, there's been some questions about whether people were getting unreasonably denied. The biggest reason that people were denied, and a very large percentage of applicants were denied at first application, was either they really didn't have the 120 qualifying payments. So many thought that once they were 10 years out of the program, or they'd been working for 10 years, they qualified. But you have to have 120 qualifying payments, which means no gaps in employment for 10 years, toward your student debt in order to qualify. They don't need to be consecutive payments. So if you have a gap in qualifying employment, that's okay, as long as the total number of payments add up to 120. And the time, if you had loan deferment during the COVID shutdown, those also count toward your qualified payment. So that's some good news for student loan borrowers. Lastly, you need to be under a qualifying repayment plan, which is an income-based repayment plan. For those of you who are currently paying student loan debt, you may have learned that there's 2 major categories of repayment systems. One is time-based, so a certain number of years. The other is based on your income. So you need to have an income-based loan payment. Those are the types of payments that qualify. So moving over to the right side of the poster, what do you need to do? What steps do you need to take to make sure that you qualify, that your payments are going toward public service loan forgiveness? Because once you reach those milestones, 20 qualifying payments for the qualified employer, then the remainder of your student loan debt is eligible for forgiveness. And that can be really big. So couple things. One is to make sure you do choose the right income-based repayment plan. Second, and I'm going to circle back to this in just a moment, but beware of debt consolidation. So if you have several debts that you've already been making payments on and you consolidate them, until about 3 weeks ago, that would cause you to restart the time clock. And that consolidated loan, even if you've made 9 years of repayments on the separate loans, once you that restarts the clock, that has temporarily changed. If you file paperwork between now and October 31st of next year, then former loans, even if you consolidate, will qualify. So that's it just happened. What else? You need to maintain employment documentation. There's documentation that needs to be completed. You need to be able to document that you have fulfilled the other obligations of public service loan forgiveness. So you need to make sure that you are documenting that you are with a qualified employer and you've made the qualifying number of payments. And then lastly, you need to be making the payments on time. Only on time payments count toward your public service loan forgiveness. And so if they're in the grace period, that counts as on time. If they are outside of the grace period and they're late, that particular payment does not count towards your excuse me, your 120 payments. That was a really rapid summary of public service loan forgiveness program. There have been many changes to it that just took place. The biggest one is the consolidation feature. So once again, if you choose either now or you have in the past consolidated student loans, or you had a government student loan that previously didn't count toward public service loan forgiveness, those now count. The consolidated loans, you can go back and recount those payments, as well as other formerly excluded student loans like the FEAL student loan. There are 2 QR codes on the bottom of the slide. Both of these will take you to a broader summary of all of these points, the qualification steps and also the action steps. Those are what the 2 QR codes on the bottom are for. So let's see, do we have any time left? We have 2 minutes. I'm curious on what brought you here, and do you have any additional questions after that really quick run through? So I see one, are income-based payments based off of household income or just the individual with the loan? There are lots of elements. That's a great question. And it's a complicated formula. It is in part based on household income. It kind of depends on how you file your taxes. But it also can depend on the number of other students in the household, as well as how many dependents you have. So it's actually a more complicated calculation than just knowing income stages. I don't know if that answers your question, but the best way to find out how that works for you is to go to government student aid, and there's some calculators there. Yeah, it's a fairly complex calculation, and I would not personally be able to tell someone where they fit into that, because it's highly personalized. Any other questions? If you do have questions, feel free to reach out to me. I'll put my email address in the chat box. It's dnuckols at umd.edu. I'm not sure if I actually have that on the poster or not. I thought I did, but it looks like I did not put it there. So there you go. Our 10 minutes is over, and thank you for attending. I will stick on for another couple minutes just in case there are any additional, but I'm going to stop the recording.